open to providing aid to California without any conditions at all?
I think we've got to have a serious conversation about that. Obviously, there's been water resource mismanagement, forest management mistakes, all sorts of problems. And it does come down to leadership, and it appears to us that state and local leaders were derelict in their duty in many respects. So that's something that has to be factored in. I think there should probably be conditions on that aid. That's my personal view. We'll see what the consensus is. I haven't had a chance to socialize that with any of the members over the weekend because we've all been very busy, but it'll be part of the discussion for sure.
What about the debt limit increase? What about tying the debt limit increase to it?
There's some discussion about that, but we'll see where it goes.
We're solidly in the MAGA administration era, where Trump Republicans literally do all the nefarious things that they constantly claim Democrats were doing. So now that the Los Angeles residents have been and continue to be devastated by these wildfires, GOP legislators want state leaderships to do their bidding while constituents suffer.
$150 billion, the number that you would expect to have to send to California?
Well, look, we just did a passage of $100 billion in aid here. Let's not forget the other side of this equation. There's $36 trillion in debt that every American is paying $100,000 into. We can't just keep running up the government credit card here. And one of the things that I'll push back on is we've got to be able to grow our economy. We do that with tax cuts, but we also have to spend responsibly here. And so just like aid to California, we will certainly help those thousands of homes and families who have been devastated, but we also expect you to change bad behavior. We should look at the same for these blue states who have run away with a broken tax policy. We want to be able to help out our colleagues in New York, California, New Jersey, but we also want those governors need to change their tune now.
All right, we will leave it there. Congressman, it's great to have you this morning. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Maria.
Zach Nunn.
Look at how quickly people like Representative Zach Nunn normalized this strategy of withholding funds for victims of wildfires for the sake of forcing a change to bad behavior. And that bad behavior he wants changed is in tax policy, but not just for California, for New York and New Jersey too. And Maria Bartiromo had no interest in asking him why those states need to do anything he demands in the tax policy when they're talking about the issues with Los Angeles. It's because they're all fake-ass salesmen that think their disgusting hostage terms aren't obvious to see. You know, look at him damn near give a wink and a gun like a sitcom car salesman.
Those governors need to change their tune now.
All right, we will leave it there. Congressman, it's great to have you this morning. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Maria.
You know, he looks super sleazy. Despite that, though, there's plenty to be upset at Democratic leadership over. But if people continue to fall for this wildly inaccurate claim that the answer is to give rich people more tax breaks, or that leadership in Republican states leads to a well-oiled machine, all you have to do is check with where many Republican-run states rank and how much they rely on federal funding versus California, which is the second least reliant.
I've been in Congress a long time approving aid after disasters. I never once even considered, is this hurricane hitting a red state or a blue state? What about this flood? What about this fire? It has never mattered to me.
For sure.
We're all in this together. It's the United States of America. We need the incoming president to view it that way. We're ready to work with the president to make sure that we have no gap, no air between us when it comes to making sure that we help victims get back on their feet and help California rebuild.
And since Donald Trump successfully told his flock to hate people like Adam Schiff, calling him the enemy of the people, no one that calls themselves MAGA will believe what he's saying. He'll keep running with this campaign claim that Biden's administration overlooked areas of red states when huge hurricanes caused devastation last year. So, number one, if that were the case, why would you condone doing the same thing to other innocent Americans, which obviously includes Republicans that live in Los Angeles? And number two, all they have to do is read. As part of our commitment to remaining with impacted communities as long as it takes under President Biden's direction, the administration has already approved more than $1.8 billion in assistance for hurricane recovery efforts. This includes assistance for individuals, including funding for temporary housing, essential needs like food, water, baby formula, and other emergency supplies, as well as public assistance to states for costs related to debris removal, life-saving emergency protective measures, and restoring public infrastructure, including roads, bridges, schools, and courthouses. In North Carolina, where the administration continues to surge resources, more than $100 million in assistance has been approved for more than 77,000 survivors. For individual assistance related to Hurricane Helene, specific funding approved includes Florida, more than $213 million. South Carolina, more than $132 million. Georgia, more than $119 million. North Carolina, more than $100 million. Tennessee, more than $11.8 million. And Virginia, more than $4.7 million. Those are both what we call red states and blue states, receiving hundreds of millions of dollars in relief aid because tax-paying Americans live there and deserve the richest country in the world that they pay into to use their money in rebuilding efforts. But if we don't stop and pay attention to how this incoming garbage president has systematically weaponized our normal bickering discourse and then turned it into forcing oppositional leaders to do his bidding, this is going to get much worse.
I totally understand.
And so it's like saying we're not going to have cops where we know there's going to be a crime.
Well, you don't know that there's going to be a crime. This fire was predicted 5 days out, not months out when it went offline.
We've been hearing about fires in California for years.
In positions of power, like the Orange County Fire Chief, the LA County Fire Chief, the head of FEMA, even Elon Musk, who went to a briefing and heard from a fire command, who have all said that this wasn't about a lack of preparedness, that this was because it was unprecedented. If you have 100 miles per hour winds, so much so that the choppers can't fly for 27 hours, which was a crucial element of this, that it was too windy to be able to do it, then you can't stand there and blame them like this. I mean, these quotes are crazy, saying, you know, firefighters have never seen these kinds of winds. The fires were, quote, unstoppable. Mother Nature owned us.
These pundits that are nowhere near the devastation have their one objective of assisting Trump in causing more partisanship division for the sake of advancing his agenda to harm the country. You know, Jessica Tarloff there literally quoted the first responders and leadership on how and why the fires spread at the rate that they did. But the rest of the panel ignored those facts and made it about the boogeyman of some liberal talking and not the experts talking.
There's nothing fake about the smell. I actually brought the lawsuit in last week. Maybe you already forgot, Jessica. And are you going to come on TV and say that California was well prepared and couldn't have done anything better? And this fire, no one could have put it out? Are you really going to tell people watching right now in California, the Democrats, the liberals, all the Hollywood stars that are livid at Bass and Newsom, that everything was perfect and they got this thing right? Jessica, this is such a disaster.
Will probably be recalled, but I am going to come on and read what the head of FEMA had to say, or the LA County Fire Chief. You know better than them.
There's no facts, no details as to why hurricane-level winds should have simply been ignored while firefighters and aircraft just do their jobs with no regard for the conditions. It's an argument that benefits from the confident ignorance of a situation and a refusal to consider anything other than their divisive talking points, all for the sake of MAGA partisanship. They've been pushing this kind of energy all through the network ever since the fire started, even glossing over their own reporters on the scenes and their weather presenters that have had to correct the record when the conclusions have ignorantly been Donald Trump would have stopped the fires.
She said the meteorologists let them know different information, but the leadership didn't let them know how bad this was going to be. And she was wondering why there wasn't more notice given so they could start the evacuation process.
Well, I wonder if it has anything to do with the fact that the mayor of Los Angeles is in Africa for the inauguration of the president of Ghana.
But you also have to understand this is not a hurricane where you have days in advance and you know exactly where that hurricane is going to make impact. We had, 24 to 48 hours of notice. And so that's not a lot of notice for people. And to actually forecast where potential winds could go, where somebody could potentially set a fire, that's impossible.